Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And today I am going to be talking about the undrafted free agents that I think have the best chance to make the roster. A big disclosure, the chances are that out of these top 5 that I'm going to tell you about, probably 1 or 2 might make the roster. People put a lot of hype on these guys and then they end up just not making the roster. So I want you to know this, that most of these people are not going to make the roster, though I do think most of these guys should be able to stick along on the practice squad. But without further ado, let's just go right into it. The first undrafted free agent I'm going to talk about, and this is not in any specific order yet, is Brock Lamp. He's a fullback, and the reason I think he'll make the team is mostly because of one very important thing. It is that Josh McDaniels loves fullbacks. He's pretty much used fullbacks his entire time as an offensive coordinator and a head coach, whether that be at the Patriots or the Raiders or whatever. Some examples: you got James Devlin and Jakob Johnson. He actually took Jakob Johnson with him to the Raiders, and that just sort of backs up the fact that he utilizes fullbacks a lot. And not only does Josh McDaniels utilize them a lot, Vrabel does too. He not as much as McDaniels did, but he definitely put him in his offense a bit just so he could get that Derrick Henry run game going more. Another reason that I actually think is pretty much solidifying his roster spot is they had already signed a fullback. They had signed Giovanni Ricci. He is a fullback, and they had him on the roster. I thought he was going to make it just because they wouldn't sign a fullback unless they kind of wanted him to be on the roster. But they recently dropped him around the same time they signed Brock Lamp. So I think that he was probably going to be their fullback, but they saw Brock Lamp and they like what they saw in him, and they cut Giovanni Ricci and picked this guy up instead. He's a versatile piece as well. While his stats aren't going to jump off the board at you, he's not going to shock you with his stats. If you need to, you can put him in there and you can catch a ball. You can, receive, right? Something that you'd want in a fullback in this day and age. He's more of a new age sort of fullback. I think he'll probably make the roster just because he's the only fullback they have signed, and I'm pretty certain Josh McDaniels is going to continue using fullbacks since it works so well for him his entire career as an offensive coordinator. But let's look at our next guy. The next UDFA I have here is Lan Larison. He's a running back. He played for UC Davis, I believe, and he's been good. He realistically could have played at the FBS level if he wanted to this year, but he didn't. It kind of shows you some he's loyal to his team, even though it probably did hurt his chances of getting drafted. But he had 2 1,000-yard seasons his last 2 years at UC Davis, and they cleared 1,000 yards by a good couple hundred yards, right? He is also, not only is he a rushing threat on the ground, he's also a receiving threat. He had about 300 or so odd yards every year. I think he had 800 this year in receiving, so it just shows he's a versatile piece, which is what McDaniels likes. He also got paid about $170,000 guaranteed, which is just a big bag for a UDFA. They usually get paid much less guaranteed money, almost none if in certain cases. He is also the prototypical Josh McDaniels 3-down running back, but if he wants to make this team, he would need to have a really good training camp and a preseason, and the other running backs would need to probably have a pretty slow preseason and training camp if he wants to make the roster. So I'm not as high on him as other people are. I don't think he has that good of a chance to make the roster since we already have 3 very good running backs on our roster. But, anything can happen. It's football. The next UDFA is Elijah Ponder, an edge from Cal Poly, I believe. He is a speed rusher, so he doesn't have a lot of strength or extreme size to him, but he's very, very fast for an edge. He ran about a 4.6, which is great for an edge rusher. He does need a bit of refinement with his pass moves, But if they can develop that, he definitely has a place on this roster because our edge room is pretty top heavy, and just having somebody we can throw in there on third downs that are guaranteed passes and just sort of give our other edge rushers a break would not be an issue and would probably be something that Frank Vrabel is definitely looking into. So he's a third down kind of guy. It beefs up the edge room. But, unfortunately, he won't be, at this point in his career, he's not a four down type of guy. He's not going to be out there when there's a chance there could be a run. He's just going to be somebody you put in if your guys need a break on third and longs, right? Though he could sneak his way on the roster if for that purpose only. The next guy I have on my list is Ben Woldridge. He is a quarterback. He's pretty much a guarantee to make this roster, assuming there's no other signing this year for quarterback, because he's only one of the three quarterbacks on the roster. The only two quarterbacks on the roster as of right now are Drake May and Joshua Dobbs. So realistically, assuming he keeps this pace, he's gonna make the roster. Because besides that, there's not any other real reason he'd make the roster. He's one of those guys, a pocket passing QB. He's a game manager. He doesn't have any outstanding talents that would put him ahead of anybody else. But he's a good quarterback, obviously, because he's in the NFL, all right? But he could definitely be a good backup. He doesn't have the arm strength. He's not a very good runner. But he's a game manager, and if need be, he could get you some wins. So I would not mind having him on the roster, but he'd definitely be the QB3. And he'd pretty much only make the roster if the Patriots decide he's good enough to not go out and sign like a vet. But let's go on to our last UDFA. For our last UDFA is CJ Dupree. He's a tight end, and he played for Alabama. Now, a lot of people are really high on this guy. I'm not as high on this guy as everyone else is just because of what he's done in his career. He's never really had a very good year. He's pretty much hovered around 100 to 300 yards in his career. But, there is obviously a little something special about him because he did get signed to Alabama out of a transfer portal. So there's something that Nick Saban saw in him because he was on the roster when Nick Saban was still the head coach. I think most people like him, though, not because of his receiving, which is just, mediocre, nothing crazy. But they really respect his ability to block. He's a big dude, and he could definitely be a blocking tight end, which we need pretty bad, as Jaheim Bell really didn't fit that label last year. So I do think that might result in Bell being cut, potentially, or Austin Hooper being cut. It's really either one. Hunter Henry is a roster lock. There's absolutely, unless he does something absurd, like, something illegal or something, right? He's making the roster. So it's either Austin Hooper or Bell would have to be cut to make space for this guy, and I don't think they really want to do that. Just because he didn't have an amazing career, he didn't stand out enough to really start, so he's just not someone that I really see replacing Bell. But I do think it's somewhat possible, and he's more likely to make it than most of the other guys who they picked up. But let's just go ahead, and I'm going to give you my top 5. Before I give you my top 5, I have to put down an honorable mention just because I do kind of like this guy. My honorable mention is Cam Riley. He's a linebacker, and if you look at his stats, it's like, what are you talking about? This guy had like 24 tackles. He did not have an amazing career, but the reason why I think this guy could be a sleeper to make the roster, or at least a practice squad, is just because of his size. He's a linebacker, but he is 6'5". He's a big dude, and that is something you can't teach, right? That's just genetics. So they might see that and think, okay, if we can build this guy into a half-decent player, his height alone could make him a beast, whether it be off the edge or in coverage or in the run game. So I think this guy could at least make the practice squad, at the very least. But let's just get into my top 5. Out of these 5 prospects I said, I think the one that is most likely to make the roster is Brock Lamp, the fullback, just because he's in a spot where it just makes the most sense for the Patriots to end up giving him a contract and putting him on this roster officially out of everyone here. He has he has the least competition because he is the only fullback actively signed to this team. So I think he has the highest likelihood to make the team. And if I had to bet on who I thought would make the team out of all the UDFAs, I'm putting all my money on him. Now, in second place, I have Elijah Ponder, the edge from Cal Poly. I have him here just because I think our edge room does not have that much competition, and I think they could see a good third down edge in him and decide, oh, this is a good guy we can just throw in here if we need to, and he could compete with people like Anthony Jennings and just sort of up people's physicality just by being there as presence as competition for these other guys. So I think he has a pretty good chance, but I wouldn't bet that much on it. In third place, I have Ben Woldridge, the quarterback. Like I said, nothing really special about this guy. It's just the Patriots don't really have anybody else. So I think he has a chance just based off of that alone. And in fourth place, I decided to give fourth place to C.J. Dupree, the tight end. Like I said, Bell and Hooper are good, but they're not like amazing. They're not going to change your life. And if you think Dupree is a good blocking tight end, it might be worth it to the Patriots to sacrifice Hooper or Bell in hopes of beefing up their run game in a way. And in fifth place, who you guys are probably going to be mad at me for thinking this, but Lan Larison. It's pretty common for teams to have 3 running backs. Most teams do not have more than 3. Maybe if they have a lot of open roster spots, but usually any team that has some sort of capability of doing good will have only 3. And the Patriots have 3, and they have 3 good running backs. Don't let the people lie to you. Stevenson is a good running back, but the fumble issues are a bit of a problem. Antonio Gibson is also a good running back. He could be a starter if honestly, I would trust him to start this year if need be. And we also just drafted a guy in the second round, Travion Henderson, and they're not going to cut him, that's for sure. So unless a lot of roster spots open in other places, he is not going to make this roster, and I don't believe he will. I think he might make another roster if there's somebody who's sort of running back needy, just because he does have the capability to be a good guy out of the backfield. He could be similar to, what's his name? I am blanking really hard right now, but the guy who was our running back last year, he was like 30-something. He could be the next version of him. A guy who just, gets balls out of the outfield and comes in to give the other running backs a break. But I don't think he'll fill in that position on the Patriots. But tell me what you guys think in the comments below. I appreciate you guys for watching. This video is going to be a bit shorter than every other video I've made, pretty much ever. So I hope you guys enjoyed this quick little video. And like I said, tell me who you think is the most likely to make this roster below, and I'll reply. I promise I don't get that many comments anyways. So see you guys. Love y'all.